Good morning, everyone. I am going to get started in a few minutes, but I am just going to open up the chat. And in the chat, there is just the information about who is sponsoring the webinar. It's from the New Hampshire Learns Remotely. So I have that information there. There's a link to a survey that will allow you to enter other ideas that you have for webinars. So while we're waiting for the webinar to start, you can look at that. And I'm also going to have a handout with some tutorials that I'm putting in as well. So I will be going through a lot of the stuff, but I made tutorials that will help you remember what we talked about later on. Otherwise, I'm just going to kind of keep it here until 8 o'clock, and then I'll get started with the presentation. I'll share my screen and start showing some examples of Screencastify, but I want to just wait a couple minutes to see if anyone else is going to come, and then I will get going. Feel free to put information in the chat as we go, questions that you have that I will answer either as we go or at the end, and that will kind of keep the conversation going on your end as well, so that you can, guide what I'm talking about. I have a list of things I'm going to cover for Screencastify, but I want to gear it towards whatever those of you who are here want to know as well. So just get started in another minute and tell you everything I love about Screencastify. It is my favorite technology tool. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Laurie Prewandowski. I am the Technology Integrator for the Kearsarge Regional School District. I'm also a Google Certified Trainer, and I am going to talk to you today about everything that you can do with Screencastify. So I saw a question already. There is a free version and there's a paid version. I'm still only using the free version. They updated the free version recently to allow unlimited free tutorials. It used to be 50 a month, and now it is free. You can do it unlimited, but you can only have 5 minutes per recording instead of 10. So I have never used the paid version. I make tutorials all the time. So I think that if you want to do a lot of longer tutorials, you might be interested in the paid version, but my saying is what a lot of people say, free is for me. So I'm going to show you what you can do on the free version, and you can decide. So I'm doing this as a tech integrator. I don't get anything from Screencastify. This is just something that I love and we use a lot in our district. So that's why I want to show it to you, because in this remote learning, it's an excellent tool for you as a teacher to help students, but also for students to turn back work to you to show what they know. So I use this all the time, even when it's not remote learning. So that's why I thought it was worthwhile to explain it. So I'm going to share my screen. As I said, this webinar is being promoted by or made available by the New Hampshire Learns Remotely Alliance. I have my notes in the chat. It's a link, and you can take that. You can share it with people in your district. You can mash it up to make it work for you. All right, I am going to share my screen, and I am going to get going here. So I'm just going to close this out. Okay, so this is the handout that I put in, and I'm just going to start with, if you don't have Screencastify, you need to get it. So it is, you want to use the Chrome web browser. When students are on a Chromebook, it's easy, but sometimes we have students who work from home and they're on a parent's computer and they're in Firefox or they're in Internet Explorer and they wonder why their Chrome extension didn't come across or they couldn't get it. So you definitely need to be on Chrome. And then what you're looking for is this icon right here, the salmon colored arrow with the recording icon inside of it. If you don't have it, you're going to go to the Chrome Web Store, and I have a link right to it. So yours would say add to Chrome. Mine says remove because I already have it. So if you don't have it, I think you want to take a minute to get that so that if you want to use it as I'm going. The first time you use Screencastify and you come up and you click on that in your toolbar, you have to kind of go through some promptings, like a setup menu. So it will say, you know, log into Google. It will ask you if you're a student or an educator, what grades you teach. And so you'll just work your way through all of those until answering them as you need until you get to, you know, the end of that. And then you have to kind of click on this like 2 or 3 times during the setup, because first you have to authenticate the account, then you have to add your microphone and your camera. So you feel like you're clicking this icon like 2 or 3 times before something happens. And eventually when you click, you want it to be that you can see this toolbar here. So that's what you're looking for, is when you open it, you see this screen. So let me just go through a couple of these. This salmon colored top toolbar is something that allows you to look at some of your different tools. So if you click on this menu, some people call it the hamburger, you can see all of the different options here. You can go to your recordings, you can click on these different things. So that's one of the tools. This is a quick way to get to your recordings the way they are in the Screencastify dashboard, and we're going to be talking about this quite a bit today. So that's going to be something that you want to know. If there's any notifications from Screencastify, you'll see them up there, and then the gear if you want to look at any of these settings. So for this salmon colored tab, these are the different things that you want to look at. The other thing that you want to look at is just this panel here. The next thing that I always have my students and teachers look at for recordings is this part that says show more options. So when you click on the show more options, there's a countdown. The default is 3 seconds. And there's an option for 5 or 10. I usually set it at 5 because I want to be able to start Screencastify, then I want to get into the web page or the tech tool that I want to use, and before it starts recording. We have students that use this for band and chorus, and so they put it at 10 seconds because they want to be able to start their recording, get their instrument ready, and be able to play or sing the piece of music. And so they want a 10-second. And I do tell students it's important to put the drawing tools on. So this embed webcam is something that if you click that, your webcam will show a little picture of yourself in the Screencastify the entire time. That's up to you if you want that there. I'm going to show you today how you can pop in so students can see you and then sort of pop out of the tutorial. Sometimes when your face is showing the entire time, it's distracting to you and to students, and they aren't paying attention to what you're trying to show them on the screen. So I'm going to go through all of that. So you've loaded the Chrome extension, and you have sort of worked on your different settings. What I have here on this handout, these are tutorials of the things that I'm going to show you right now, because I want to take you through the different options of what Screencastify can do, and I'm going to give you some ideas of what you can do as a teacher, and then some ideas of what students can do. I have some bonus tips, and then I'll take questions at the end. All right, so let's go back to Screencastify, and I'm going to open the Chrome extension. So on the browser tab, when I click on the record of the browser tab, you're going to see this is my countdown. And so now when I start talking, everything that I say is going to be recorded as part of my presentation. So this is excellent for teachers when you want to give instructions to students. So down here in the left-hand column, you're going to see my tools. So I have a pencil, and I can take a colored pencil and I can draw an arrow to what I'm talking about. I can circle something so that as I'm walking through the assignment that I want the student to do, I can explain, this is the part that you're looking for. Here's the menu where you change your font. Down here, I can also just have a mouse pointer. So see, when I'm clicking on something, I get that red circle. So if I want to say here or here, if you're trying to draw the attention to something in your document, I can pause my recording. So if I want to gather my thoughts, before I continue with my tutorial, I can pause it. This is the webcam where I can turn it on. So now in my Screencastify, in my finished video, the students are going to see me down here in the screen. So I can start with the screen and say, good morning, students. I'm going to walk you through this assignment that you're going to do today. Then I can pop out so that kids can go back to focusing on just what I'm trying to teach them. One thing with the remote learning is the concern that the work being produced is done by the student. So Screencastify is an excellent option because it will be the student's voice. And so even, and also you can ask them to pop the camera on so that you can see them and sort of associate their face with the voice that you're hearing. And so this is a way to authenticate. It's also a way for the student to say hi to you, because in this remote learning, some of that social classroom piece is missing. So you can ask the students to do that. So if you try to leave this browser tab, it's going to send you a message that you're recording in the background. And so this allows you to keep the focus just on this screen. The next thing I'm going to do is show you the desktop version, and that's if you're going to be clicking around in a lot of different things. You might want your whole desktop open, or it's because you're using a piece of software that's on your computer and you want to show that, and it's not something you can do in a web browser. So when I'm finished with this, you'll see up here that next to my Screencastify, this red dot lets me know that I'm currently recording. When I start nearing my 5-minute window, it's going to send a message that I'm almost at 5 minutes. The other thing is, so if I want to stop this recording because I'm done, I can click on this and I can stop this. If I want to restart because I messed up, I can hit this and it will start all over again, or I can pause it here, or I can just delete this. But I'm going to go ahead and stop this. So what happens is, this is the dashboard when you're finished. And so it's going to, if you want to hear what you said, you have to unmute it, and it's going to work its way through your tutorial. So this tutorial that I created was 3 minutes and 37 seconds. And so you're seeing on the screen everything that's happening. So this is a great way to explain your assignments, to give students directions, to help them. As a tech integrator in my district, I do this all the time. So what you want to do here is, if you want, I'm just going to stop this for a second. Oops. If I want to trim out the beginning and the end, I can drag these scissors almost at 5, and I can trim this. With the upgrade of the free Screencastify, like some of the premium features are now in the free. Before, you couldn't trim. So you had to kind of get it right. So one additional bonus with the upgrade of the free features is this ability to trim. You couldn't do that in the free version before. In terms of the 5-minute limit, I think most people don't want to listen to you for 5 minutes. I make a lot of short tutorials, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, 2 minutes. I hardly ever make it all the way to 5. I would rather make 2 or 3 tutorials at 1 minute each about different pieces of it so students can focus just on the one thing I want them to do, because usually I'm teaching them a technology piece. So I can trim this, and it will trim my video so that if I know I kind of didn't want the beginning and the end because I didn't like what I said or messed up or I just want to shorten it, I can do that. So over here, these are your options. I can copy this, I can share it in these ways, or I can download it. Prior to the upgrade of their free version, you could not download it as a different type of file, this MP4 file. So this is another upgrade to their free version. So I love that. One thing that's really why I love Screencastify is when students or a teacher uses Screencastify for the first time, a folder is created in Google Drive called Screencastify. It is created automatically. Every video that's ever done after goes automatically into Google Drive without anything extra being done by you. So this is really handy for organization. So students, if they didn't share something initially, they can share it later. If you're looking for them to add things to a portfolio and you want a collection of this work that they've done, it's all saved here so they can assemble this in the end. They can put the screencasts inside of Google Slides. I'm going to show that as well. So that is sort of the web tab version of Screencastify. The next one that I'm going to show you is the desktop version. It's basically the same. It's just that I have to allow my entire screen, and you can see now, you can see that it does the countdown. I have my tools. Before, these tools were only available in the tab version, but they've extended it to both of these versions, which is really, really helpful. So I also have this little thing at the bottom that I can stop sharing, or I can stop sharing from the top here. So I have this extra thing. But if I have a piece of software, like if I'm trying to walk somebody through how to use iTunes or iMovie or something that's on my actual physical computer, this is a great version to be able to do that. So a couple of ideas that I have to show you is when you're doing this full version, I have let me show you this Google slide. Sometimes students or you make a slide deck and you want to voice over it. And so you'll have your slides like this. This is why the 5 or 10 second countdown is nice, because before I start recording, I would want to get it into the presentation mode so that my voiceover starts from this first slide. And so you see that I can move through my slides and I can be explaining the content on these slides. So a student can be doing this to give you back information about what they went through to create this presentation, or you can be giving instructions using a presentation that you created. Another idea is on a Google Doc. Either as the teacher, you are explaining to the person how to write an outline, or the student is explaining to you, this is my thesis statement, this is my first topic, this is my second topic, and they could be asking you for advice. And so you can look at this outline, watch the video from the student where they're giving you feedback about what they created and why they created it and what their questions are. And so then you will be able to hear from the student instead of just looking at their outline and not really knowing exactly what it was they were thinking or what they needed help with. This is an excellent way for you to show what the student to show what they know, for you to explain an assignment, for you to give kids feedback. You could be looking at this paper and I could be saying, okay, on your thesis statement, I would like a little more detail here, etc. So when I do grading or give feedback, I will sometimes open a Screencastify on top of the student's work and I will give them information on that. Another thing I do a lot is tutorials on how to do something. So I might open up a Screencastify and walk through a technology tool such as Book Creator. So those are some ideas. I'm going to stop sharing this particular Screencastify. Again, every time you create this, it comes to this dashboard automatically. You're going to want to make sure that you give it a title. It's going to title it by the date and time, but that's not going to be helpful for you or students when you're trying to find the work later on. In a little bit, we'll go through some of these features, but I want to demonstrate the one other way that Screencastify works, and that's the full webcam version, so that I can have shown you all three, and then I'll move forward in the presentation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Screencastify, and I'm going to go to this third option, the webcam only. A lot of students don't like this webcam option because it opens up to this full screen for them. So you can hear the countdown in the background. So in my district, students use this both remotely right now, but they also use this for chorus. So the student would have their music on a stand and they would have their Chromebook on the stand with the webcam sort of right on them. They had the headphones with the microphone, and the chorus teacher would be playing the piano and each student would be singing their part. So what would happen in the recording is that the student's voice would be the loudest on their computer. And in this full webcam version, the teacher could look at their smile, could look at how they use their mouth when they're singing. And this way, the chorus teacher could give the student feedback on those kind of things. And also she could hear the singing and the part that the student was doing, and the student would be able to get some feedback of their chorus technique. Our band director has students do the same thing. So she can look at the way they hold their instrument to give them feedback, not only on how it sounds, but the positioning. So she might have a band of 60 students in the room at one time. This recording that the band teacher would do periodically throughout the year would allow her to give personal feedback to each student on certain things. The other thing that a student can do is if they had some sort of physical assignment, maybe they wanted to show you something, like we're trying to figure out what we're going to do for science fair. So students could literally in the webcam lift up things, explain to you what this has to do with their assignment. So those are just some ideas of the full webcam. Again, they only get 5 minutes, but they have multiple. They used to only have 50 tutorials per month, and now it's unlimited per month. So students could do several of these tutorials and hand them in these short little increments for a whole number of things that you can use to either teach them how to do something or for them to show you what they know in this free, easy to use Chrome extension. Okay, so I'm going to stop this one. And again, every time you stop one, it goes to this dashboard so that you can trim it, you can name it, and you can figure out how you want to share it. So that is that part of the presentation, just going through those different versions. So I'm going to come back here and I'm going to see, I want to look in the chat to see if you have any questions so far. I've opened up the chat. I just want to pause for a second before I go on to the next thing. If there's something specific about these three types that you want to ask me now, I'll leave this chat so I can see it and I can answer these questions. So if anybody has anything that they want to ask me right now about anything that I've shown for the different ways that you can use this, you can type them in. And I'll just wait a minute to see if any. Yep, so the desktop version is when you want to use anything that's on your desktop. So I have a Mac, and if I'm on my desktop computer, I can either film or record something that's in a web browser, or as I said, if I have a piece of software, like the science teachers in our district use probes, and they have software for that. So that's not a piece of technology that they can show on a web browser. It would have to be a piece of software that was on their screen. And so if they opened up the screen from their desktop, it would record that, which is pretty nice that it can actually record what is the types of software that are on your computer. And it's not just limited to what could be on a web browser or internet tools. The webcam is the ability to see the person who's sitting at the computer. So instead of seeing anything that was software related on the computer, you would be able to see the actual student. So for those examples of somebody singing or playing an instrument or showing you, we have a culinary class at the high school, so she's asking them to put together recipes and showing them what they created because they're not in school to be able to cook. So the webcam lets them hold up, the food. So yes, so when you open up Screencastify, all three of those options are available every time. So you decide before your countdown starts which way you want to record. So it depends on what you're trying to do. Does that make sense? So there are three options. The first one is recording just in a web browser tab. So that's when everything is contained online. So that would be the option if it was just an online tool, like a web page or something in Google Drive that you wanted to show. The desktop version is if you want to open up a piece of software that's not web-based, it's something on your computer. Our graphic arts teacher has the Adobe Creative Suite, and so she wants to use the desktop version to show them the tools that they normally use when they're in the classroom. They're not web-based tools. They're something that's only contained on the computer. And then the webcam is the third option where you can just say, hi. All right. Anything else? Okay, so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen and we'll go through the rest of the handout. Okay, so I showed you these different things, and I showed you, let me just close this. I showed you the processing screen, but I'm going to show that again so that you know what I'm talking about, because after you record the video, it's pretty important that you can get it somewhere. So when I go back up to my Chrome extension, if I hover over this little thing that has the arrow, it says My Recordings, and that brings me back to this dashboard. So any one of these tutorials that I've created in the past, like this is the one that I was just doing this morning, if I click on this, it's going to bring me back to what I call this processing screen. Most of the time what I do is I click on this to get a shareable link. Now I can email this to a student. I can embed it in my handout. That's exactly what I did here. These tutorials are links to where I put those videos I create in Google Drive. So I will highlight the text. I'll say, bury that link inside of there, and then you get to see my tutorial by just looking on this. So for that option, when I'm recording, that is what happens when you click get that shareable link. So this dashboard here allows you to do lots of things. As I mentioned earlier, you don't have to do anything at this screen. You can just close out, because this video is going to be saved in your screencast recordings, and it's also going to go to Google Drive. So if you don't know what you want to do with it just yet, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to download this to use it in some other way, you can click the download button, or this export as an MP4. These were not available on the traditional free version. You can export this just as audio, so that way it's a smaller file, and if you only want to capture what you said and not all that you were doing in the background, and you can make a GIF file. So this dashboard allows you to do a lot. So once you have this video, it allows you to share it directly to one of your Google Classrooms, get the embed code to put it on your website if you're trying to like have information on your website. And these are all great features on this dashboard. I showed you about trimming videos. You can just outright delete them here if you know that you don't like it and you don't want it hanging around. But these are a lot of ways to use this video that you made to share with students, to put on your website, to put in a portfolio, to turn in as evidence. If this is a student turning in evidence in Google Classroom. When a student wants to turn it in Google Classroom, so I copied that shareable link. What I want to do is just open up my test Google Classroom. What you might want to do is create an assignment that tells the student, I want you to create a Screencastify of this piece of information. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to create this assignment as a teacher. I'm telling them to create a Screencastify. So use Screencastify to show what you know. So I'm going to ask them to do this. I would fill this out and I would give them this assignment to do. And then what the students could do, so I assign this, and then I'll open up my student account. So what the student would do is they would come to their Google Classroom and they would, you know, I'm going to come here and I'm going to make my Screencastify as the student. So here's the Screencastify that I'm creating as a student to show you that I can play my instrument, and I would be doing this. I'm going to stop the recording as the student. I'm going to name it. I'm going to copy that shareable link. And then what this would look like to the student is they would go to Google Classroom. They would open up their test class. They're going to click add a link. And they're going to turn it in. I can come back here as the teacher. I can open this up. And right here in Google Classroom, I can see the evidence that the student reported. I can give them the grade. I can add a private comment. And so this is just a great way in this unique remote learning environment that kids can use a simple tool to show you what they know. So that's kind of that whole Google Classroom loop. They create the assignment, they grab that code, they put it in Google Classroom, you get to watch it right here, and then you get to just do the grading right inside of here. You're confident that it's the student, you see the student, you hear the student's voice, so you're able to give some sort of assessment or feedback on whatever it is you ask the student to do. I showed you before that in your Google Drive that Screencastify saves everything. So I could take an assignment, this video from here, let's say that I wanted to turn this in. I could select this and I could get the link to this and I could turn in one. I don't have to turn it in right on the spot and I don't have to turn it in that way that I just showed you. Every single video is also in Google Drive. So if the students name it, which I always advise, they're able to come back here, click on this link, and share this link with you as well, either through email or in Google Classroom. One of the things I wanted to mention is when the remote learning started and everybody was making tutorials, teachers in my district and students were a little bit frustrated because the processing time took a really long time. So I taught a couple teachers to make sure that they had a YouTube channel, because the YouTube channel would allow the teacher to get those videos to render faster than what was happening in Google Drive. I've noticed that as we've gone into our second week, that videos are processing a lot faster. So this is not as needed, but I wanted you to see that with this YouTube video option, there's a couple of bonus things that I want to show you that you can do. So the first thing I have the teachers do, this is not really what we want students to do in terms of, creating a YouTube channel, but I show this part to teachers. So when a teacher goes in their Google account and they go to their apps launcher, YouTube is an option. So you can't just go to YouTube itself. You would start in here. And then I tell the teachers to go to their profile picture. And right here, if it says create a channel, that means they don't have one. And they would click on this, if they would authenticate that that this is the account they want to use. So you can see mine says your channel. That means I have one. So I would first walk the teachers through creating that. What's nice is when you're at this section, for the teachers that were having a hard time, they were copying the shareable link, they were sending it to students, the video wasn't processing, it was telling students to download the video. Our students use Chromebooks, and it takes a long time to download videos. So this was the workaround. So right from Screencastify, you can click share to YouTube, and you would put in your YouTube channel here. If it's not here, you add it. And then I always make mine unlisted. I don't make them public. Private means only you personally, the teacher, can see them. Unlisted means only the people who I share a link with. So now I can upload this video to YouTube. and it was processing a lot faster. So this is just an option. When you click on YouTube here, you're still going to get that it's processing, but it was just a lot faster. You would just sort of refresh a couple of times, and then it would eventually load. So now this video is on YouTube, which gives me a couple of options that I want to show you as part of the bonus tips. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second and see if there's any questions for this part. So let me come back here. So any questions on that next part about where stuff is stored and how you get the link to share in Google Classroom, or does anybody have any questions on that piece? Because I want to take a couple of minutes to show you a couple of bonus things with this Screencastify that would take your lessons to the next level, but I didn't want to just soldier on if you had some questions on this part. All right, so there's a lot that you can just do with Screencastify based on putting things in and out of Google Classroom and sharing things with the teachers, the students sharing things with the teachers, or you sharing things with the students. But I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen, and one thing that is helpful when you do something in Screencastify is being able to put your video into Google Slides. So you don't have to put it on YouTube to do this. I'm going to show you how to put a video in here. One thing I have a hard time with when I put things on YouTube, whether it's my video that I created or one that I take from YouTube, is all the videos that come up next. Or it's really distracting for kids with all those videos down the side for them to pay attention to my video. So one thing that Google Slides allows you to do is, what I have here is I have a video that I embedded from my Screencastify. So you can see that this is the video over here. So what I did was I made a slide, and I'm just going to do 2 slides. The first one is usually just, this is the video you're going to watch with the date, like a little bit, you know, of an intro for the student. Then on the second slide, I just put the video in. So let me show you this video that I just put on here. I'm going to get the link. I'm going to do insert video. Now I could have just pulled up my video. I just want to show you how you can do it from YouTube. So I'm going to say by URL. I'm going to put this video in here. When the video goes in, I kind of like put it in the center. I drag it out. Over here, if you don't see these playback options, it's because you did not click on the video, or this video playback is collapsed. So if you open this up, this allows you to do this with your videos or any video that you take from YouTube, where I can start the video. So this is a 2-minute and 30-second video. I can start this at 10 seconds and I can end it at 2 minutes. And then I always click autoplay. And then I click present so I can see what it's going to look like. So the student would have. So I look to see that it starts at the time that I want, it stops at the time that I want. And then you can share this with the student. So they just watch the video inside of the Google Slides. So those next videos on YouTube don't come up. You kind of keep the student right here in the slides. So this is either a Screencastify you created that you put on YouTube, or just a video that you put on YouTube. You also can just add videos from Drive. That's not a completely new feature, but It's one that, that Google added a while ago. So you can put in any video. I just like that if you are going to use a YouTube video, you can start and stop it and you don't get those suggested videos coming up. Sometimes they're kind of sketchy, and also it's just distracting to the students. So again, you can share this and the student can go into the presentation mode and they can just flip. So the student watch the video there, go to the next one, watch the video, and you've created a presentation for students in Google Slides by pulling different videos in and keeping them away from YouTube so they stay focused on your assignment. So that's kind of a bonus thing. The next thing is when you have a video that you made in Screencastify, you can download it and then you can put it in Edpuzzle. And what I like about Edpuzzle is it allows you to take this remote learning to the next step. So you can, I already have an account, so I'm going to click login. This is also free. You get a certain number of videos that you can put on here in the free version. So I can use any video from all these other locations, but what's really nice is sometimes you make a Screencastify of a very specific unit, and then you want to give it to kids and you want to ask them questions and you want to know that the student answered the questions and that they watched your entire video. So what you can do with the Screencastify videos is you can upload them. So you click on where it says add content and I can click upload a video. And I have this file that I just downloaded from Screencastify. Before, these tools were only available in the tab version, but so I'm going to add it this way because it didn't. So it takes a little bit of time for it to upload. It takes a little bit of time for it to process down here. So I'm going to skip to this video that I already processed. So what you can do with, and there's all kinds of tutorials online. I just wanted to show you that if you use Screencastify, this is like the next layer that you can do. So what I did was I brought my Screencastify video in and I clicked on the word edit. It's going to let me trim my video or somebody else's YouTube video, but we're kind of talking about your Screencastify video. So we're kind of talking about how you created some content about a lesson that you want the students to learn. So then I can drag this slider to certain parts of the video. And then what I can do is I can ask a question. I can ask a multiple choice question. I can ask an open-ended question, or I can write a note. So you see, these are 3 questions that I already asked. If I ask a multiple choice question, so you put the question in, then notice that the first choice has the green check mark. This has to be the right answer here. So Edpuzzle won't show the right answer first every time. This is just if you want the self-grading piece of it to be done, always put the correct answer in the first box. And then you can have as many wrong answers as you want. You can just keep adding these. So when you're finished, you click Save. Now I can move to another point in my video and I can ask another question. So I can move this to here. I can ask an open-ended question. You have a dashboard. You have to go in and manually answer these questions. But you can give some feedback that says something like, did you mention at least one of these 3 points? So the student gets some immediate feedback about what you were looking for. So think about the power of using Screencastify and Edpuzzle when you're teaching remotely. You create the video yourself. in Screencastify with your voice on your content, maybe a slide presentation you put together, and now you're asking students to answer questions. So I'm going to click finish. When you go to assign this, one thing that you can do is prevent skipping. That means the student has to watch the entire video and they can't just jump and answer the questions. So I have thoughts on this. Some teachers never want students to skip. They want them to watch the whole thing. Other teachers will say, and I feel like this, either one of these is acceptable. If you really want the student to watch your entire tutorial, then say prevent skipping. But if it's maybe it's a pre-assessment for what they know. So if the student can answer all of your questions without watching the video because they already know the information, is that a bad thing? Right? So you have to decide, what is it that I'm doing for a unit? What am I trying to figure out from the student? Because sometimes they do want to skip ahead and see if they can just answer without watching the whole video. So you get to make that choice every single time. You also can post this directly to Google Classroom, but I can add this to a class. So I have a remote learning class. If I want them to be able to skip, I can just shut that off and I can assign this, or I can post it directly to Google Classroom. So I just wanted to show you those two tips. Those are kind of like extra things. So when you're using Screencastify, you can go the extra way of using your YouTube channel to create things that you can then make playlists of. You can take your videos and embed them into a Google Slide so that you can have everything right in Google Slides for the students. Or you can put things in Edpuzzle and you can have students answer questions right inside of your video so that you know. Normally you would stop in class and you would ask the questions and you would know what the students were thinking. But in this remote environment, you might want to be able to get that to work. All right, so the question is, I use Edpuzzle, never upload. Yeah, so I'm not sure if it works directly from Google Drive in a Chromebook. I'm on my desktop and I had to download the video first to get it to upload. In a Chromebook, you might be able to search right into Google Drive to get it to upload. If you have a YouTube channel and it's published on YouTube, you can just go find your own YouTube video from, if you do the route that I said, and you can upload it that way. So I would have to test it out on a Chromebook to see if you can go right into Google Drive. But if I try to do that on my desktop, it can only find things that are on my desktop. But again, if you have your own YouTube channel, yeah. So on your PC, you can try that. I don't know that it will find it in Google Drive. I think when you click on the upload in Edpuzzle, it only is trying to find something from your computer. Google Drive, you used to be able to have Google Drive on your computer and it would sync your files to your computer, but they kind of went away from doing that a while ago. So yeah. All right, so that's basically all that I wanted to show you. I know it was a lot, that's why I gave the handout with all the tutorials so that you could go back. If you've never used Screencastify before, this kind of thing is overwhelming where I'm just throwing a bunch of things at you. But I gave the handout where I go through each thing separately so that you could focus on just the one you want to start with if you're new to this. Also, I gave you a couple of extra tips so that if you're already using Screencastify, of other ways to extend this, the use of this tool in this remote learning environment by adding it to a YouTube channel, doing the Edpuzzle, putting it in Google Slides to keep those other videos from coming up. So right now, I just want to open it up to any other questions. Yep, so my handout, I'll put it in again. It was in the beginning of the let me just put this here. that's the link to my handout. It was in the beginning of the chat, but I'll put it in there again. So that will bring you to the notes that I had for today. I am recording this and I will give it to the New Hampshire remote learning people. If you, I'm not sure, I think they're gonna post them in some place for people if they wanna re-watch it, but I made those tutorials so that you could focus on whatever piece of Screencastify you want to use. So are there any other questions of things that people want to ask me about Screencastify or share with the group, or anything else that I can help you with on Screencastify for today? All right. Thank you everyone for coming. I hope that you have one little thing that you took away from this that you can use in your district. And I hope that the distance learning is going well for all of you. And thanks so much for joining, and be sure to fill out that survey I had in the top of the chat. That was from the New Hampshire Alliance. They're looking for ideas of what else you might want to learn about in this kind of webinar format, or you can go to their website. The district that I work for is the Kearsarge Regional School District. It's in central New Hampshire. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for coming, and stay healthy, and I hope to see you in a webinar soon. Yeah, for the PD, I'm not sure how that works. I can ask Cindy who put that together. I would say yes, but I don't know if she has a certificate that she created for this format. So I will, that will be something on that New Hampshire Learning website. Her contact information is there. So that might be something you want to ask her of how they're doing that. Her name is Cindy Dunlap. If you put your email in the chat, I can send you a certificate that you were here for this hour. Okay. That would probably be faster. So ORCST.org. All right, I'll send that to you today. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.